about that they're pushing the cart to their houses. But these have not been, the carts that I have pushed, that I've been picking up have not been in front of houses. They've been left on the side of the road, not by a bus stop, not by a or a camp or something like that. Just, I mean, by the Church of the Nazarene, by various places on US 1, even all the way up on the ramp going to 26. So, I mean, I can see if someone was pushing it to their house, I got that. But that's not where these shopping carts are being found. And it might be different on 378 with the hotel there and pushing it to food land. I can clearly see that. So I understand that. I mean, and I appreciate that we're willing to at least look into this matter and potentially try to see if we can do something to eliminate this problem.
But whether they're found at the side of the interstate or found on the side of the road, it still would have a negative impact on people that would want to push them to a house or push them to where they're living to get the amount, and they bring them back the next day. Because if we do this, it's going to make grocery stores not want to see any carts leave their premises. So that's my concern. It's not, I agree, like I said, a lot of yours are probably mischief going on, but I think there are some legitimate ones there, and I don't want to cut those people off. It's kind of one of those things where I don't want to harm the people that are trying to do the right thing, because we've got some few bad apples out there.
Anyone else? Anyone else? Councilman Green. Next, item 6.3, discussion related to council training and travel. Councilmember Jimmy Brooks.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. The issue came about because I guess it's a new urbanism conference that Councilmember Moy and Green are going to. And the way I found is most council members found out about it was through an article in West Metro News. And I just want to know more about it. And I guess either Councilmember Green or Councilmember Moy can tell us more about what's going to go on there and what benefit it'll have for the city of West Columbia. That's my biggest question.
Well, this was something that Mike Green and I we applied for and received full tuition scholarships to this conference, and it didn't cover airfare and room and board. Okay, and so Mike made he inquired with the city manager if there was any training budget that would allow for the airfare and the room and board to be covered. And it's my understanding that there was a number of conferences that we have that are in our normal budget that have been canceled in the last year. So we had some budget that was available, and that anyone, and it's been kind of difficult to find training with COVID and everything, but anybody who wanted to attend the conference could come. And I believe that Brian sent a link to the conference, an email for everybody. I have the agenda for the conference here. There's 3 days in March 22nd, 23rd, 24th, and 25th. And these days have a full day of, each one of them has full days of classes. There's some group sessions, but most of the classes there'll be 4 sessions going on at the same time, from the basics to the advanced, but just to give you an idea of what some of the classes are without talking about all of them. The National Town Builders Association, which is an accredited, is going to be giving 3 courses on the second day. There is a course on lean urbanism, which speaks to something you were talking about earlier, how to make better outcomes with fewer rules. There's courses on how to create better outcomes where there's racial inequity with the way that things are conventionally done. One of the headline courses for the second day is rethinking infrastructure investments for better outcomes. And then another one is shifting the DOT paradigm, which I assume is improving interactions with DOT. And there's another one, a zoning code diagnostic. So that kind of, that would be where you find blind spots and hidden red tape in your codes. So this is and furthermore, this particular alternative, new urbanism is mentioned by name in long-term plans that our city has going back for 10 years. And anytime a city has a redevelopment plan, usually the conventional set of rules are a little bit too one-size-fits-all. But this particular alternative keeps coming up with these third-party studies in our city. And this is an opportunity, finally, for us to kind of explore this opportunity and get off of, and you know, maybe push some of these conversations forward a little bit. So I applaud Brian for finding the budget, and I'm really appreciative. And if it's all right, I mean, I can submit this agenda to the record, so it can be. I mean, I don't know if that goes in the minutes or not, but I can certainly do that and make that where anybody can see that it's a. And it's in Oklahoma City. It's not that's not really a place where I would normally go on vacation. So
I think one of the things that I know I would rather see instead of us sending people to a conference about it is us bringing in a trainer to talk about the council as a whole about what this involves, and then decide if it's a path that the council wants to go down or doesn't want to go down. You know, I'm gonna say this in a tongue-in-cheek manner, but you know, one thing that would be great for West Columbia if we could find the space to do it would be a world-class golf course. But I don't go and ask Brian Carter to send me to play golf at world-class golf courses to get that experience, nor would I. I think this is something that, as a whole, we need to have more in-depth conversations to see if it's a path we want to go. And by all means, if it is a path we want to go, then I think we should get all the training in the world we need. But in the past, historically, the city has sent council members to the National League of Cities and to the Municipal Association. That's it. Am I correct, Brian? For the most part. So I just think something like this should have been discussed earlier in the process, and it shouldn't have taken other council members questioning what this was to invite other council members to go. Not that I personally wanted to go or had the time to go. It was just something I think should have been brought up as a whole to the group. And we should have all had that opportunity to decide whether this was something that we wanted to go to or not. The only other question I have is how many attendees are projected to attend this overall?
as of last week, there were 600 people that were registered.
And of those, you know how many of those are other local government officials?
I don't know, it's probably 2/3 architects and developers and people like that, and municipal employees, and probably 1/3 elected officials. Because there's that's the three main people that would be interested in this.
My only other ask of administration would be if we can have more discussions around the concept of new urbanism to see if that's something council wants to pursue or not.
If you want to learn about it, you can attend the conference.
Going forward and see if that's something, because if the council has the will to do it, then I think we should attend conferences like this instead of, I think we've had 1 or 2 members talk a lot about it, but the rest of us are kind of like, we need to look at other things. So I think we'd like to see that talked about. Thanks for interrupting me down there.
Oh, sorry, I apologize.
Anything else?
Mr. Carter, I had a question. As your role as city administrator, I believe you are authorized to approve expenditures of up to $5 amount?
I cannot approve expenditures up to $50,000.
Without council's approval.
And then if there are items that have been approved previously by council and under certain circumstances, may sign off on purchases over that.
And we have specifically passed a training budget for the council in our annual budget. Is that not correct?
Yes, council has a training.
And how much is that training budget? You know? Sorry. That visual's not-
Yeah, Councilman Green, I don't have the exact number. I believe there's, I don't have the exact number. I just back.
And I believe that
That last number is based on the anticipated expense of all council members attending the municipal association annual conference and the conference hosted by the national universities.
and I believe the budget passed, did it pass unanimous or with an 8-1 vote?
I don't recall that.
Okay. But the budget was passed by the full council.
We did have a ballot budget adopted by council.
Thank you.
I was just trying to say, I wasn't aware of the conference, which thus far, I do wish we had known beforehand, but I think, some of the things that they talked about, some of those could be beneficial. I would love to have David and Mike, if not both of them, say something to us, once they get back, and so they can share that information with us. And if we can have somebody come in, I definitely would love to have somebody come in as well. So we all, like Jimmy said, Councilman Brooks said, that we all have somebody come in here. And so we can learn more about it.
And Councilman Moore, it's not that we're against what you're talking about, or I'm against it. I think that we would like to have more information about it. You can shake your head all you want to down there, and you can act the way you act all you want to, but I simply asked you a question. And I'm sorry you're not the king of West Columbia.
I'm not being the king of West Columbia. I've been talking to you about this since 2018.
That's right, you've been talking as we listen for hours and hours and hours.
Right, you can listen to
Hey, but that's enough. Thank you for your comments. 6.4, presentation related to a mural on Meeting Street. Tara Greenwood, thank you.
Good evening, council. So I have what I think is a really awesome project to discuss with everyone. It's a Meeting Street Gateway mural project. Just know that the renderings that are shown tonight are just a starting point and to gain some direction on how council would like to proceed. Items such as colors, flower types, logo placement, etc. can easily be changed. I absolutely welcome feedback and ideas for this highly visible project that, again, I'm very excited to bring before you. Once we determine a clear vision, I will bring back final renderings for council's approval. To get a little more in depth, we'll start kind of with the Ed's Edition side of Meeting Street. There are several, there's some impressionistic sunflowers, and I did work with a local artist who provided these renderings for us. We have some more bright graphic sunflowers that kind of bring out the colors of our logo in the background. Additionally, there is kind of the larger Ed's Edition wall. It kind of has the river theme with the really bright, the bright green and blue. And then there's the smaller wall. We can get a little further down towards, kind of heading back towards Capitol Square. She put in a very vibrant sun. Again, it's an additional fish, but that can be changed with a different maybe flower type or some more waves. It also has our Head West tagline included. So I just kind of thought those were really fun, something again vibrant, welcoming. She also did one that's a little more impressionistic, Van Gogh style waves, again with the Head West. And then there's like a fish that again kind of incorporates the river theme. We can move on to, then there's the Terra side. She is, it's really, really bright and vibrant floral scene on that side. And then again, there's another one of just, it's basically like a wall of flowers. I didn't want to get too far down the rabbit hole until I got feedback from you guys to see, you know, this was something more, you'd like to go in this direction, you'd like to see more just Head West or our tagline or logos. Seeing as how this is the last thing that you see if you're heading into Columbia and the first thing you see when you're heading over that bridge, we really thought thought this would be just a wonderful opportunity to bring some vibrancy to that area. So again, I welcome feedback. I'll be happy to email these renderings out to you guys and just kind of get your thoughts on where you'd like to see this project go.
It looks great. Have we tried to put one on the side of the terrace?
Not actually on the side of the restaurant wall itself, since it is, we haven't gone to that building owner yet. This would just actually be, because the sidewalk comes up so high, it would be putting a mural right there and then also changing out some of the
When I saw the mural on the side, it made the wall stick out even more. That's why I asked that
It
question.
did, and that's also.
There's a way to.
And that's absolutely something that we could look into as well. I mean, again, this is open up for all ideas and all feedback. Absolutely.
Someone else?
Tara, which mural did she do before for us?
Alicia, I believe, and I may have to confirm with Kelly, but I believe she did one of our art walls, and I know she participates in Art on State. Is there anything else I'm missing?
Art on State Fallback Post.
Art on State
She
Fallback
did do
Post.
the,
And one of
art
our,
doc, the Sitting on State art wall. Okay, once before.
Tara, I would concur that I think this is a very good idea. I do have maybe a comment is that if we could paint the metal railing there, maybe make it blue or blend in somehow. I mean, maybe if they could take that as part of the thing too. This would, I think this would really help because I see right now especially the terrace side, there's basically some high weeds growing up there.
yes, sir.
And so this is, I mean, the little details like this make the city better and make the city look, much better. And I appreciate it, and I think that's a very good spot for the art.
Yeah, I like the flowers, Tara. If we go with like a head west theme, it might be fun to include something about Connect Derby Day or a certain car or something.
Any other comments?
Thank you for putting the curbs there, and I love this idea, because this is probably the most recognizable intersection in all of Lexington County. And it's kind of what gives people a sense of arrival when they come to the River District. So I love making those horrible concrete curbs look wonderful with art. I would like to introduce an idea, maybe to kind of push the art a little bit further. If we had a mural program that was operated a little bit like a facade grant. I'm throwing that idea out there. I don't want to get into the particulars of that, but I think that might be a good way to get a lot of our brick block walls that are kind of shabby into really nice shape really quick. So just throwing that out there. Thank you so much.
Brian, I'm just wondering, could part of the facade improvement grant be that if they added a mural or something like that to their facility?
Yeah, I think we look at what our current requirements are for that grant. We did cover the painting of the exterior improvements, so it seems that whether that's a basic cover or something like that.
Okay.
Any other comments? Thank you, Tara.
Thanks, I appreciate your feedback.
All right, moving on to item 7.1. Discussion related to the West Columbia noise ordinance. Councilmember Grady.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Bell. I have asked for this to be put on the agenda for us to again start a discussion about the noise ordinance. There has been several people who have come to me and complained about some noise. And as you know, we've had several discussions. So I am simply going to start the discussion and say, If we went to discuss this, potentially amend the ordinance, fine. If we don't, fine. But this is to give staff a sentiment of, should they spend time on this or not? And I think there's several people who are here tonight to speak on this, but we all know that there's one area in our city that is having a noise problem right now, or potential, is disturbing some of our citizens. And so we need to figure out some way to balance the needs of the business and the needs of the residents in this, and to make it a win-win situation for both. Nobody wants it to be a win-lose or a lose-lose situation. So I asked for this to be put on the agenda to start the discussion, and if we want to discuss it, we can. If we don't want to, then we can as well. Thank you.
Councilman Green, I agree with you. Unfortunately, as the email we received today stated, we unanimously voted. I think that Councilman Moy and Councilman Dickey were not on council at the time, but we unanimously voted to an agreement with the brewery down there to allow this to occur. I think the legal ramifications need to be addressed before we start talking about whether we go or we don't do this, because at the time, that's what we voted on. We agreed to allow that to happen. And I think that, I don't know legally, we can go back on that agreement with them at this point in time.
I would piggyback on what Councilman Brooks said. I know that there's a problem with noise, and even Councilwoman Holman has brought up other issues with noise in the city, which I echo her concerns, whether it's coming from cars or otherwise. I feel there's many complaints from the people out here now about the noise complaints that come from the brewery, and I would explain multiple times about how this is more than just an amendment of the noise ordinance. This is a legal situation that is that council and the private party entered into to get so that this was public-private partnership. If I remember correctly, I know that staff and the brewery were working on things, and I know that takes time. That takes time because it's a complicated situation. It's not as simple as amending the ordinance. Because even if we amend a noise ordinance, that doesn't necessarily change the situation. And if we do amend a noise ordinance or even enforce a noise ordinance in violation of an agreement that two private parties made, that's called a breach of contract or breach of any agreement that leads the city into litigation. So the thing to do is, I think getting an update from where we stand on trying to ameliorate this situation, and, understand the concerns of the citizens, because, those are serious concerns. I've heard things myself. Sometimes I hear it down in my residence, which that's unheard of. It shouldn't happen. And certainly we will see how it shouldn't happen. So I think it's a serious concern. I'm glad you brought it back up. There's some Councilwoman Hall, and I plan on bringing it back up anyway. But I think there are other noise issues that we need to, if we're going to address it, we need to address all the noise issues as well.
I just had a question. So Councilman Brooks and Councilman Dickey, is there any limit to the noise that is produced by a business? Since we've entered into this agreement, if they make 100 decibel loud noise at 10 or 11 p.m. at night, is there any limit there?
But you would be more familiar with the agreement than myself and Councilman Green, because you were on council when this agreement was adopted, not me.
Yes, but is there any limit to the noise that a business can make that we've entered into an agreement with, or not?
I can't answer that question.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Let me ask Brian, you've been constant communication with them about this problem.
I have been in communication, yes, with owner of Savage Craft Brewery regarding their desire to make improvements to the property and minimize noise that are coming from the property. They have been working on the plan. My last update is that they did have a plan that they were reviewing to determine some cost efficiencies. Have not had a detailed discussion with the owner, but we have we're trying to get that meeting scheduled suggest some actual direction that we can look
Councilmember Dickey, the last thing you said, about reaching an agreement, that's I think that's the most important thing here, is whether or not our noise ordinance is written, so as not to, you keep sound at a reasonable level so as not to disturb neighbors. And I think that's knowledge of what public-private partnerships we're making cover, that the situation with Savage. I really feel like there's definitely some valid concerns about loud levels of noise, regardless of what kind of district we're in and stuff. But at this point, I am really confident that we can do like people have done for 1,000 years in cities and just figure out how to live close together and figure out some solutions. It's obviously not a single cause to the problem. There's not going to be a single solution to the problem. But I think that we're getting there. I'd like to see kind of what the plan is, short and long term. I think that would make a lot of people who are a little bit nervous with spring coming up and loud noises, I think that would set them at ease a little bit to know kind of where we are and what we're working for. That's just my take on it.
And I would echo what Councilmember One said, and I think the concerns are very valid regarding the noise from the brewery. With that said, if there's going to be a problem meeting, I think at this point it might be, good to maybe involve council members to be at the meeting, or someone similar, because it's clearly become a concern of the entire council, which it should be.
Mr. Carter, were they exempt from the noise ordinance? Is that what we did? Just totally exempt from it? I thought there was a decibel level requirement, was it?
The agreement, as I recall, did not really type of decibel limit on it. We did have an agreement when they were, the approval of the project, I'm sure there would be outdoor limits. It certainly is reasonable, certainly is reasonableness that is associated with that. Sorry, the microphone is on.
Okay.
So there's but as far as a decibel limit or anything like that, I can't recall anything like that.
I was trying to look through the agreement and see, I didn't see one. I think the best thing for us to do is try to talk with them, but at the end of the day, it was an agreement we made in good faith, whether it's a good agreement or a bad agreement. I hope as a business owner that they would want to do something to make it better. I think they do. I just think we just need to continue talking with them and trying to get to that point.
I do want to applaud the police department, because I do feel like since we brought up mobile noise prior, that there has been improvements with that. Chief Boyce, we've been talking about how really being proactive, and really if you pull up to the intersection, things, there's loud music to really address it then, and where we're getting a call, and by the time we get the call, the car has moved on from the residents or through the neighborhood. So I do think, I know from my end, I do feel like the number of calls that I've been getting as far as mobile noise concerns since we really started talking about it and addressing it has improved.
Any other comments? Thank you. Item 7.2, comments related to noise complaints. Sarah K. Jones, if you would please come up, state your name and address. We'll move forward. Thank you.
Sarah K. Jones, 105 Sugar Street, West Columbia. Mayor Pro Tem and members of the City Council. Thank you for the opportunity of letting me come tonight and voice my opinions about the loud music at Savage Craft Brewery. Everyone has heard the right to own and maintain property, as well as the right to quiet enjoyment of your property. I'm here to let you know there is no quiet enjoyment when there's a band playing at Savage Craft. Last year, I called the police 24 times. Now, these complaints have lessened due to the weather, and they haven't had as many outside events. but here comes spring, and I know it's gonna pipe back up again. The worst and most disturbing occasion last year was on Saturday, March 13th, before St. Patrick's Day. They had a Celtic band that was playing Irish music. The music was so loud, it was just vibrating the windows in my house. I felt like I was being tortured. I could not get away from the music no matter where I went in my house. It was just very loud, even up front in my bedroom. Other nights when the music is extremely loud, I have to cut the volume up on my television to drown it out. One night, my son went to Savage and asked the assistant manager to cut the music, cut the volume down on the music. And he was told, no, they like the music loud and they would not adjust the volume. There have been occurrences on weekdays and weekends during morning hours when recorded music plays at loud volumes. This is not bands, this is just recorded music before any customers even arrive. This is just, I guess, for their employees' entertainment. Several Saturday mornings, there have been exercise classes with very loud music, which included a PA system and an instructor who called out exercises in her loudest voice for an hour. When the bands play music so loud, it's impossible to have a conversation with anyone sitting on my back deck or in my backyard gazebo because you cannot hear or be heard. Savage seems to have no concern for their neighbors. They could be much more considerate. And I hear them say that they want to be, but no one has addressed anyone that I know in my neighborhood. Some type of compromise regarding volume of the music needs to be reached. I hate calling the police and complaining about the loud, disturbing music when the police have more important duties to perform. I was told by our previous chief of police, Mr. Tyndall, in a voicemail, that Savage is an entertainment venue in a commercial zone, and the West Columbia Ordinance does not cover entertainment venues. Well, I understand now from Mr. Brooks that that was passed, that they don't have to obey the noise. They don't care how loud they did it. If this is the case, can it be changed? This problem has been going on for over a year now. West Columbia city officials have been made aware of the problem since the opening of Savage in January of 21. We residents have been told by city officials that the problem is being addressed, but yet the loud music continues and the police are still being called. As the most impacted neighbor of Savage, I would appreciate a solution to this disturbing loud music. But in closing, on a positive note, I'd like to say Savage is an asset to the community. I find that they have done a fantastic job of redoing the older buildings. It's very appealing and it looks really good. I know people enjoy going down there. I've been down there myself and enjoyed it. And the revenue that the city gets from them being there, I'm sure it's a win-win. I don't want to see them go anywhere. I think they're a great business and I wish them much success, but not to my detriment. Thank you again for the opportunity and I appreciate your help with this matter.
You want to
Say,
Mrs. Jones, I just had a question. You talked about, sometime, this is me, I'm here, way down here, Councilman Green.
okay.
Sorry. What was the earliest that you have heard a very loud thing? You said there was some time that was really early in the morning. What time was that, do you think?
Oh, I used to go out in my gazebo and read like at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. It is, I can't give you a definite time because it varies.
And what was the latest that you've seen the loud noise go to?
as far as the bands are concerned,
Yes.
I have no objection to, they always cut off by 10 or 11. So they are complying with the hours as far as I know.
Is the morning noise, is that a daily basis, a weekly basis, a monthly basis, once
It's
a quarter?
inconsistent.
How often would you say it is?
A couple of times a month. And it has not been as frequent lately.
Okay.
But I did want to mention it because I don't want it to start up again.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think some of these inconsistent, like a morning that's once a month or twice a month, even though it may be a longer term thing, is the equivalent of a loud noise going by temporary. It's not, if it's doing it every day, then I have a major concern about that. I think it needs to be addressed. But if they're only doing it once or twice a month, or maybe once or twice a quarter inconsistently, then I don't necessarily think that's as big of a concern as it may be if they're playing unbelievable noise for just 5 hours every night on there. And so I think that's where the give and take's got to be in there. And I understand some of the properties that we're talking about tonight are in the commercial zone anyway, and they're zone commercial. So I think you've got to give and take some of that to understand where that is. I think there's one, it may be your house, I'm not sure, I don't have to know in front of me. But when you're in a commercial zone property, it is a little bit different than a residential zone property. I like to see, I still would like to see them do a better job. One of the things that somebody told me a long time ago, and I don't like it, I don't think any of us like it, I think you probably get a consensus 8-0 vote right now. Sometimes in government, things take a lot longer than it would if it were me and you trying to talk about it. Or if it was a neighbor, that was an individual neighbor there sitting there, and even on that same piece of property, sometimes it just takes a little bit longer to get these things done. But you know, there have been some discussions, and hopefully there's discussions that lead to a better outcome, at least a reduction or like I think last time we talked about maybe returning their stage and maybe put a canopy up or something like that to try to reduce and contain better. Hopefully they're still going to do some of that stuff and it'll get better for y'all.
This is not a portable stage that can be there.
But a canopy could be put up where they can direct their noise in another direction.
That would be interesting to see. But, anything that they can possibly do to help it would be appreciated. But if there are going to be any more new regulations, addressed to them, it wouldn't, hurt to have it in there that off hours, music, loud music for their employees when they're at work. That could be addressed as well as the loud band music.
And I think one thing y'all need to go back to again is that these are going to be voluntary things they do because their ordinance is already done. Even if we change the ordinance, I believe they would be grandfathered in. I think Wayne Schuler probably talk more of that than I can. But I think they're going to have to be involved. They're going to have to agree to do some of these changes on their own. And we're going to have to try to work with them to facilitate some of that. And that's my understanding. Is that what you understand?
Councilman Brooks, I think some of the issues that have been raised are certainly legal matters that we can seek counsel on legal representatives and to advise council in future sessions.
Any other comments? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Next item is 7.3, comments related to noise complaints. Diane Hare and Tim Smith. State your name and address, please, sir.
Hey, I'm Tim Smith, 416 Spring Street. And I want to thank everybody for giving us a chance to speak. Thanks, Councilman Green, for bringing this issue up again. Since y'all have already talked about a lot of stuff that I wrote down, I'm going to do a little bit of winging it here. But most of y'all know that I've been in business in my 5th decade in it. In a building where everybody plays music and no one can hear anybody else. This was what was business called standard operating procedure. If my neighbor came around the building, then I'm a bad neighbor, and I should be called out. So I just think that's the way all businesses should operate. I understand there's an agreement made, and that's, sounds like it's a bit of an issue. But going forward, I just think that everyone should have to play by the same set of rules, no business should be given preferential treatment. I've had, from being in the Fireworks Association for a decade or more, probably had hundreds of people in bars and other establishments, and the number one thing we get is the rules have to be the same for all of us. Nobody wants somebody at an unfair advantage, so if I can do one thing, but somebody in the same business can't, that's adversely affecting somebody else's business, somebody an unfair business advantage. Personally, I don't think want anybody to hear what their neighbor's doing, whether it's a business or whether it's some private citizen. If you can hear what I'm doing in your house, then I'm too loud, I need to be called out. I think special exemptions are a special thing. We heard this thing called about different things, but whatever. I think it should be for like New Year's Eve, July the 4th, or a holiday, Veterans Day parade or something like that. To me, that's a special event. A special event that takes place multiple times a night, a week, sorry, a week. It's not special, it's more as usual. So again, I'm rambling a little bit because, you know, you write down stuff and then you guys, you can't just do a question. Walk down, you already mix my what I'm going to say. But, so hopefully I'm not getting too incoherent. But my main thing is just, you know, it is stressful to hear music that's not what you're choosing at an extremely high volumes. One night, the police measured at 130 decibels, which is supposedly instant hearing damage. One of our friends said, you know, you guys have to watch it. When you watch it, you got to have closed caption, because you certainly can't hear it. You can only hear it by following the dialogue that's written up there. So piggyback on something that Sarah mentioned, the bands usually start out, there's usually a 3-hour window that's supposed to play in. The window seems to move around erratically. Sometimes it's from 4 to 7, sometimes from 7 to 10. But the bands usually start at least 1 hour before their allotted time. When they do a sound check, that takes an hour. And some bands stop promptly at 10 o'clock, some bands go off 30 minutes past it. So there's a lot of erraticness to it. We hate to call the police, understand that by the time the police get there, you know, because this can't be their first priority, especially on a Friday, Saturday night, understandably so, that the band could have already stopped 5 minutes, even though they ran 30, 40 minutes over. So again, I'm rambling on, I'm just trying to get stuff into that I think is pertinent. So, you know, thank all of you, and thank you, Councilman Green, for bringing this back to the table, and approaching having no agenda, and hopefully we can get some resolutions soon. I'd like you guys' comments, but maybe council members these meetings, they can move things along. That's all I have for you.
Thank you. Any comments?
I've got one question. So you're speaking for you and Diane.
I'm a separate person.
Yeah, you're a separate item on the, I was asking if they were both on the same.
Yeah, I don't know why. I'm my own person.
Oh, okay.
You are. Speak to my.
You know, yes, sir, if we walk away, I know we've heard from you guys, and I appreciate y'all bringing those concerns. Do y'all have other neighbors that are having the same issue that we just haven't heard from?
Can't walk down the street right here.
Okay.
I my very, very small political position in Pine Points. I regularly meet with police officers there, and they good naturedly grid me about it constantly. Because police officers talk to each other.
What do you think about that, Mr. Smith?
I'm sorry.
What do you think about police officers really about?
They grid me about that. That's like how that noise was actually happening. That's what.
That's what I'm saying.
say.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, the council members, everybody back there, have my back to you. I want to thank you all for what you do for the constituents in West Columbia. We really do appreciate you, even though it may seem like I do a lot of complaining. But I have been frustrated for the past year. We've been talking about this. I don't need to go into all of that again. People have already said that tonight. It's the same thing again. But since we have discussed it before, we're just kind of wondering, these discussions that are happening, when? I mean, I haven't been updated at all about these discussions except to hear, we're talking about it, we're meeting, and they're gonna either rearrange their PA system, or they're gonna maybe buy their own, or they're gonna put a physical barrier, they're gonna do stuff to be good neighbors. And we've been hearing that for a year. And even though the colder weather has given us some respite, sonic assault has started anew. It's warm now, the windows are open, the doors are open, it's loud. I personally have heard it start at 10 a.m. and it's gone till midnight before. So it is kind of like Tim said, the window moves depending, I guess. I'm kind of digressing a little bit from what I was going to say because it's just what everybody's been saying over and over again. And I really don't understand this special legal agreement. That's something that's not anything I'm familiar with, because I thought we were just going to be talking about very simple noise ordinance. It seems like there's a bigger issue, and I don't know how to address that. So I'm just saying, if there's any way to have them manage the noise, that would be great. We have not ever said, not once, that we want to try to close the bar or make life difficult for them in any way. But we would like to be able to enjoy our property without being a captive audience to really super loud music. I think that's pretty much it. You know, if we can't have a noise ordinance, then I don't know. I don't know what else to say. But I do appreciate your listening to me, and will appreciate the help that you get. So thank you.
Diane, we got an email earlier today and it said that your house is in R1 residential zone. And I just have a question. How long has that property been yours and your family?
The Finnegan house has been in my family since the 1800s. The house Tim and I live in was built in 1921. So I was wondering, when you said grandfathered in, if maybe I'm grandfathered in?
Okay. So that's been in your family a long time, and you really love that house, and that's your place.
Yeah, it is, because my grandmother, like I said, built the house in 1921. I grew up as a military rat. My father was a career Air Force fighter pilot. And so we moved every 3 years. So that's the only place. My mother was from Manhattan and first generation Americans. So they're all over the place. They're just scattered. So this home is really the only place I've ever had to use. So it does mean a lot to me. And I'm not going anywhere.
So,
Okay. Everybody?
Any other comments?
I do want to know, if somebody can go notice, I think it's in Councilman Boyd's district, Savages, if I'm not mistaken. Have we had any conversations in between Councilman Boyd or anybody on in our city administration in the last 6 months about this? Has it come up at all with the owners?
Councilman Brooks, I'm not sure I understand your question as it relates to Councilman Boyd, but
I think, has he had any conversations with them being in his district, or have y'all as administration? Have we had any conversations directly with their owners over the last 6 months or so about or 3 months, or what's our time frame right now? That keeps coming up, and I just like have to be able to give them an answer because that keeps coming up.
Yeah, I've had conversations with the owners of Savage, but I've kind of kept the conversations to just, we're waiting on an answer, and I'm getting the details of stuff that he's working on with Brian, because, I don't want to confuse the situation, so
I just want to know where we are with this talks, that's all, and to give them a little bit of vapor relief or wherever we're at, and I think that's what y'all.
that's what's informed, oh, yeah, I'm gonna interrupt. That's what's informing my opinion, that I feel like there's a reasonable point that we can all get together here, is just from conversations that I've had with them, where they seem sincerely interested in reaching, reaching a point. I don't understand why, I think that the reason, this is just my opinion, I'm just saying this in open session, but I think that the reason is because like anything new that's opening up, there was a big expense that happened, and then they realized that the live music really was what was driving their business, which, is something, and I don't think that there was malice, that kind of got them to that point. But at the same time, I understand that that this is something that creates a at times hellish thing for the neighbors. So it's a really difficult set of circumstances. I wish some of this stuff wasn't the way it is right now, but I do, because we're having to go at the speed of the government doing things. But I do feel like we're going to reach a measurable outcome here, hopefully soon.
Well, thank you, because we've never wanted an adversarial relationship with any member, any business, or any council member at all. That's not ever been what it's, what our point has been. It's just be good neighbors,
And I think that's the approach that we need to take with business owners, that they aren't going to be adversarial way.
I think, Brian, my takeaway is we just really need an update. So if you could reach out to them and find out, are they in the process of looking at purchasing these things? Are they not going to purchase these things? And then alert council and then make sure the Game Yard Association is notified that we're going to discuss it again. But I think what we're looking for is just an update on what is the progress and where are they with making improvements or not making improvements, so we can then make plans from there.
Sure, the update I have currently is a plan that they look at, as I said before, we're looking at cost efficiencies related to that plan. I have not seen the details of that in my communication with the owner of the brewery, and it has been fairly regular, it's certainly responsive every time I reach out. That's where they are in that process. As far as the other issues, that some of those have been discussed tonight, there will be a discussion. We'll bring in our legal counsel, meet with you, discuss those issues, and provide a review of that pursuant to our legal process.
Do you think, I'm not trying to take up a lot of time, but I'm just curious.
In my conversations with others, they have a desire to certainly get rid of it. I'm not in any way speaking on their behalf. Indications I've received from them are that they certainly want to be accommodated in a way that is reasonable for their business as well as working.
We'd be happy to have them come over and sit in our backyard with us, so I bet Sarah would be happy to have them sit on her deck. Just so they can hear for themselves, to understand that we're not just one of the old boomers who had our fun and I don't want to live in street.
Mr. Carter, I had a question. Many times, I believe the first step in solving a problem is to document the problem. Do we have any equipment to measure the sound level, and have we taken any measurements of the sound level at different times?
I'm not aware of any equipment the city has level. And I'm not aware of any equipment that we have that's certified, calibrated to do that, certified everything. Presented as evidence back.
So you believe we have no equipment to measure sound in the city?
I'm not aware.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, moving on to 7.4, comments related to noise complaints. PA over.
My name is B.A. Holman. I live at 509 C Avenue. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, neighbors, attendees. I appreciate the opportunity to share my thoughts and questions. I'm here not only for myself, but on behalf of those who live in close proximity to Savage Craft Brewery and the ongoing volume of noise from this establishment. Clarification of the West Columbia noise ordinance as it pertains to this venue and possible future establishments is greatly needed as our neighborhood continues to develop. You've heard our concerns both at private meetings as well as a previous council meeting. These concerns are ongoing and address not only the volume, the frequency, and health hazards, but tonight I was going to focus on the wording of the noise ordinance. We do understand that the city is working on solutions to this issue, but after a year, as you know, we have not heard or seen concrete evidence of such. And I'm going to have to kind of do this. I'm not going to read everything I was going to read because now I understand that there was a special agreement between the city and Savage. We as residents have no knowledge of this and have looked for something that would explain why this particular establishment is allowed to continue with a barrage of intrusive noise. The noise ordinance clearly states that, unreasonably loud, excessive, and disturbing noises is hereby prohibited. It shall be unlawful for any person to make, continue, or cause to be continued any loud, excessive, or disturbing noise, or any noise which annoys, disturbs, or endangers the comfort, repose, health, peace, or safety of others within the city. Now, apparently, this agreement flies in the face of that section A of, or section 926, Article A of the noise ordinance. There is no, let me, give me a second, because I'm having to readjust here. I could find no wording in the document that specifically mentions a commercial retail establishment. Perhaps a revision is in order, as there are obviously many people affected negatively by 4 nights a week and frequently full days of extremely loud music created by more than one person. Which is referenced in the article I just read. It also states in Article C, the noise ordinance, that any unreasonably loud, excessive, or disturbing noise is defined as any sound regulated by this section which is clearly audible at a distance of 50 feet from its source. I can assure you that the sound emanating from Savage Craft is clearly audible, often blocks away. I, for one, was in favor of an outdoor music venue in the neighborhood, thinking that it would be occasional and special. None of us were aware that we would be subjected to excessively loud music on a regular and ongoing basis. Might I suggest that going forward, community meetings be held to allow clarification and input before decisions are made which directly affect us as residents. We had no idea as to what the owner's intentions were. I wonder if council did. There is also another section of the noise ordinance Article G that says that the complaints of more than one person and/or the complaint of a police officer are prima facie evidence that a sound regulated by the section, a noise disturbs, injures, or endangers the comfort, peace, repose, health, peace, or safety of others in violation of this article. There have been countless documented calls and complaints to the police dispatch directly connected to the volume of music from Savage over the past year. Article J talks about the public nuisance and saying that it is subject to abatement by restraining order or injunction by a court. Nowhere could I find mention of extended noise permits or special consideration given to commercial entertainment establishments. Now, you would think that any special agreements would be public knowledge, but we can't find any evidence of it. Which I think is always have a right to know what is being done. There is a section that pertains to permitting for special events. Surely, this one establishment is not applying for permits every time they host an outdoor band. So in summation, my main question to you is, why and how is Savage Craft Brewery being held to a different standard than the rest of the citizens and businesses of West Columbia? And finally, all that we do is turn down the volume. I thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you, BA. Any comments or questions?
Brian, I just want to ask if there, I wasn't on council at the time, but it is to my recollection that there were public hearings concerning, things concerning Savage and they were advertised. Am I mistaken by that?
That's correct. The zoning board of appeals on public meeting with activities taking place.
Okay, and there were some of the reception and things, all that was, done by public hearing and it was advertised. So that's
Those are advertised and public.
And so the reason I bring that up is it's not because I want to sit there and argue with the back forth. That's not the case. But I do when it comes to transparency and looking at if the city violated, state law regarding freedom of information now, all the transparency law, we do want to make sure we're accurate and take up for our staff on what they did. Because I don't think anybody on the city has done anything wrong in relation to any deal that was made with Savage. Now, I think we've all taken your concerns and everyone else's concerns very seriously, and I think I'll even echo what Ms. Sarah says, because I'm in my office often, as y'all probably already know, and I hear it weekly. You were nice about it to say that it was erratic. It's weekly, on the weekend, and it's done at like 10 in the morning. I'm sure I'm say it's weekly, and I speak with Chief Wesson very often about the issue, especially when you're on technical conduct meeting. But what I do not want to happen is us sit here and put things out there about the city and what the staff is doing that may be in violation of law or otherwise, and make it seem like we're doing something like city staff or other councilmen before me and David have done something wrong, because that's not the case. So we're going to talk about, I would like for us to be all on the same page, and be accurate concerning and accurate about our statements concerning the law. And I'm so serious about us trying to work together to get that rectified, just as you know that it's a business to you, and business to me as well, when I'm at the office, because I'm probably there more than I am at home. So we're gonna work on it as we continue to do. And I know it's a burden, but we're gonna work on it.
There's another.
I appreciate that, thank you.
Yeah, there's another side to that. Councilmember Dickey is correct when he says that we were following the letter of, we were following the letter of law, and that's now the way that, now I think that there might be some places that we can look at for ways that we can, draw like that's a minimum standard, like well, that's the minimum that we're required to do, but that we might look into how we might get better outcomes by by, advertising, meetings, by giving outlines of agreements that we made and stuff that are in our written.
And get more people involved.
And that would be us bringing ourselves to a little bit higher standard than what's in, than what's necessarily required by law. And that might bring better outcomes in certain situations. And I would encourage us to look into seeing if there's processes and procedures we can do, to improve that. So yeah, I agree. The staff did, what they're supposed to do, but if there's ways that we can improve on some of that stuff, there might be some merit to that, as well. And I'd be interested in looking into that.
I thought that's worth it.
We have a hearing like that was on, we place signs out front. And I truly believe there were a lot of people from that neighborhood that were here for those meetings. So I think our city does a great job putting it out there. I don't know, I'm open to ideas. I think everybody, our staff is in this room, they're all open to new ideas that come about for getting postings out. And as I think we do everything the law requires, we could probably do a little bit more, but I don't know how much more. We do a good job. They were posted, and I think we had a pretty good crowd here for one of those meetings at least. So I think what it comes down to is maybe it was not fully understanding of what it said for some of the residents of what actually was in it, and that would probably do a little better.
I think probably that there was not a clear indication either as to what Savage Craft intended to do as far as the music. I don't know that it was really considered that they planned on having music, loud bands 4 nights a week. I don't know, but I wonder if anyone even discussed that. When I look at things that as we develop, and especially in this area, I just think there needs to be more transparency in looking at the peripheral effects of things that are agreed upon and developed. Oftentimes, you might say, oh, this sounds like a really good idea, let's go ahead and do this. And without looking at the ramifications, public input is a huge asset. People have different perspectives, and sometimes I'm not condemning any of you by any means, but sometimes when you get into a governmental body, there tends to be, I don't want to call it tunnel vision, but sometimes there are other ways of looking at things, and if there were more public input on an informal basis, people might point out things that you hadn't even thought about. I think that's where my frustration comes from, is that, as I said, I was excited about Savage Craft, and I thought this would be great, have a live music venue right here, I could walk to it. But again, I don't know that anyone understood that they were going to be as invasive as they are. So, with that being said, thank you for listening.
Thank you.
And I do appreciate everything you do, I do.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Mr. Smith, I was just thinking on if it's all right to address that. The 5 Points Merchants Association that you serve on.
Yes, sir.
That's a much broader and larger scale organization than the Ymca River District organization, with Steve Cohen and I think David Williams and Joseph. Have y'all gone to talk? It seems like y'all kind of police your own. I know there's a nighttime component and a daytime component in 5 Points. What I gathered from what you were telling me was that you guys kind of work together. If there's a problem, you work it out. I'm just throwing that out there. Have y'all gone to staff and say, hey, we really council meetings, people are complaining, how can you be a better neighbor? Just have that conversation. I'm just curious.
in contact by email with one of the managers there for a month or so, that they think we stop answering. But I will say, when she was responding, that she did seem like she was conscientious and said all the right stuff. And that the daytime stuff seemed to get better. The bands, nighttime, every once in a while feels a bit better. But the daytime stuff was better for a while. The nighttime stuff, and that's, I would say, in my opinion, not speaking for everybody, but the live bands is the biggest problem. That's just, that's excessive noise in the city. But I would say most of that 3 hours one night to be that whether noise taking.
And I will speak on that. If you have noticed on some Thursday nights, when he does have a band that is small enough, he has stopped putting them on the stage, and he is putting them in the courtyard up against the building. Therefore, the music is being directed toward the stage as opposed to the neighborhood. So he has done that with some of the smaller bands, if there's room to do so, other than putting them on the stage.
Thank you. Well, it is a constant work required, but we appreciate your work on it, your organization work on it. Any other comments? Thank you. Moving on to unfinished business, item 8.1. Second reading, consideration of an ordinance to annex a total of 6.7 acres of property, TMS number 004-645-02-059, also known as 1835.5 Sunset Boulevard, West Columbia, South Carolina. Do you have such a motion?
So,
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, raise your hand.
That's unanimous.
I'm supposed to ask for discussion on that, sorry. We've already had a second reading. All right, moving on to new business. 9.1, consideration of a resolution to authorize the consumption of beer and wine at the Rhythm on the River Spring Concert Series to be held at the Ymca Mack Bridge Amphitheater, Greater Casey, West Columbia, Chamber. Do I have such a motion? Is there a second? Second. Tim, any discussion?
Tim, will you give us an overview of these changes?
Mayor Pro Tem, members of council, our leadership team, thank you very much for all your support of the Chamber of Commerce and the Visitors Program. Thank you for giving me just an opportunity, Ms. Holman, just to speak a little bit of Rhythm on the River. Before I do, I want to say thank you again for your support collectively as a chamber and a city of the businesses throughout this area. You grow strong businesses, and I thank you for that. And you really put your money where your mouth is about things like that, because I'm looking at you individually here. Many of you guys who own businesses in the city of West Columbia are members of the chamber individually. And then also collectively, as a council, you support the businesses in the Chamber of Commerce. And because of that, I think that you're seeing the benefits of that in this area. And I want to say thank you. People want to move to this side of the bridge. Businesses are wanting to come to this side of the bridge. So thank you for continuing to give that support. Councilmember Holman, you spoke specifically of what we're doing with Rhythm on the River. This year in our spring series, we will have 5 Saturdays. We will go through the month of May, as well as the last Saturday of April. We have some of the local bands that you have heard before. Steve Cohen, who is here tonight, 19 years he's been putting this program together for us. And I like to say that we start at 6, we end at 9, and we've not had a complaint. We do keep that music to a tolerable level. We do ask for the alcohol consumption. We do have law enforcement officers on site, of course, and we do carry the insurance that's needed to be carried for that. Also, this year, on one of the particular evenings, we're going to have a non-alcohol event. And that particular night, Deotis, as well as Taylor Watford Foundation, which is a rehabilitation group, is going to sponsor on that particular night. so that we can prove, yes, you can have a good time without that and be able to give some time for rehabilitation talks to those folks. So again, we would just ask for your approval. This is the 19th year. Thank you, Steve Cohen, again. The 19th year that we're requesting this, and your support is certainly. Thank you.
You have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed?
Thank you very much.
Item 9.2, consideration to approve City of West Columbia Municipal Court jury list for calendar year 2022, Kenneth Everett, Municipal Judge.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. I stand before you to request that you approve the jury list for calendar year 2022. There are 12,707 names and addresses on this list. I have it here on this list, not put it out. Do that, I would like to, my clerk can assist you. But we do, by law, have to have the potential juror list approved by you so that we can send these folks to serve on our juries. Listen to.
Do we have such a motion? Is there a second? All those in favor, please raise your hand.
Thank you.
Item number 9.3, consideration to approve Land Construction LLC as the lowest responsible bidder in the amount of $2,028,520 for Division 1 of the Saluda Gardens Water System Improvements. Do I have such a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Andy?
Sir.
Discussion.
Evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. On December 14, 2021, staff received bids from contractors interested in constructing Division 1 of the Saluda Gardens Water System Improvements. As part of the bidding process, all interested contractors are invited to attend a mandatory pre-bid meeting. We received bids from contractors G.H. Smith Construction, Lag Construction, Lakebridge Utility Company, Inc., and McLean Associates. We reviewed Lag Construction's bid and qualification statement. Upon review, we determined Lag to be the lowest responsible bidder, and therefore request approval to award Division 1 of the Saluda Gardens Water System Improvements to Lag Construction LLC in the amount of $2,028,520.
I don't have any questions, but, Andy, I definitely want to take a moment to say that I'm really proud of this project and city staff, and it's definitely been a labor of love. We started working on it in December 2017, and many hours of meetings and plannings and estimates, and I feel like the project and Andy, your leadership, really been a catalyst to kind of shift and reprioritize our CIP, putting efforts into looking at resiliency and putting redundancy into our system, and just really taking a proactive approach to address maintenance issues on our distribution system. Also proud that, part of all this, we've also really streamlined our process as far as consultant selection, which has benefited the city. Also want to say, David, I know you talked about there's a class for DOT relationships, but you're looking at someone right here who really has done a great job to build a relationship that we have with DOT as part of this project, because it's, we worked on it for a couple of years. And I've heard it firsthand talking about Andy and his work, so just thank you for everything.
Any other comments?
Andy, when do you think that this will begin, and when is the end date for the completion?
It's a 12-month construction period, so it'll take us a little while to get through, get the contracts in, make sure all the insurance bonds are there. So it'll probably be released to start. We'll probably do notice to proceed, I'd say probably in the next 30 to 45 days, once we get a pre-con schedule and all that.
Thank you.
Any other comments? All right, you've heard the motion. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Adjourn.